Hey everybody, it's Karen with Food and Family. Glad you joined me today. Today we're going to be making two desserts that are always on my holiday table. They're Thanksgiving, they're on my table for Christmas. Everybody loves them. And I'm going to be making my granny's pecan pie and also egg custard, which happens to be my husband's favorite and also a sister-in-law of mine. It's her favorite as well. So let's get started today. We're going to start with the pecan pie, and I'm going to read you the ingredients, and then we'll get started. There's 3 eggs and room temperature, a half a cup of granulated sugar. Sometimes I use a quarter cup of granulated sugar and a quarter cup of brown sugar. And we're going to make 2 pies, so I may make one each way. And then a cup of light Karo syrup. I use Karo, whatever brand you have, light corn syrup. 1 cup of pecans broken, a teaspoon of salt, a teaspoon of vanilla, 3 tablespoons of melted butter, and 1 tablespoon of cornstarch. Now I've got my oven preheated to 350, and let's get started. So I'm going to start with 3 eggs. Let me grab them. We'll be using eggs today, and the pecan pie and in our egg custard. But we're doing the pecan pie right now, so let's start with 3 eggs. I said they're room temperature. So let's break them up. Remember, you never crack them on the side of your bowl. Don't do this. Do this, or like I just did, and crack them together. That way you don't get shell in your dish that you're making. So let's break these up a little bit. Let's move this out of the way so you can see. We're going to break our eggs up a little bit. Now let's put in a half a cup of granulated sugar. Let's see, half a cup of granulated sugar. Just kind of level it off with your finger. If you get a tad more or a tad less, it will not hurt anything. So let's set that aside. We're going to bake this together. See, can you see that? I'm just beating them up and getting that sugar and eggs mixed together. There we go. Now I'm going to add my cornstarch and my salt, a tablespoon of cornstarch. Whoa, that was salt. Don't mix up the two like I thought. That would not be good. Tablespoon of cornstarch. Plop that right in. Now the cornstarch is going to help your pie set, so it won't be runny. The eggs will also do that too, but I just put cornstarch in it because it helps, thicken your filling and get it a little thicker. So we're going to do a teaspoon of salt. I don't do quite a full teaspoon. I'm going to cut it back to like 3/4 of a teaspoon. Now we're going to do our vanilla. A teaspoon of vanilla. I'm measuring for you, but when I'm cooking, I just splash it in. I use what I want. And you can do what you want. It's going to be your pie, and it's going to be so good. So, vanilla. Then we've got 3 tablespoons of melted butter. I just melted it in the microwave. Let's mix this together. Beat it up real good. Get that cornstarch distributed through there. Let's see, we've got our eggs, our sugar, our salt, our vanilla, our butter, and our cornstarch. We need to put in our syrup. I wanted to show you a little hint, a little tip on your your corn syrup. If you will spray your measuring cup with a non-stick cooking spray, your syrup will just pour right out. And you won't have to stand there scraping your measuring cup trying to get it all out. And it will just easily pour out. So, that's a good tip. So, let's set this aside. Now, watch this. Watch that. See how easy that just poured out? And it just comes right on out. So, now let's mix this up. I like to go back over my ingredients as I'm mixing. Y'all, look at this glorious golden deliciousness. Can you see that? Can you see in that bowl? It is just thick and golden. Mess it with, again, I'll go over it again. Our eggs, our sugar, our syrup, our salt, our vanilla, and our butter and cornstarch. For the most important part, pecans. We're going to use 1 cup of pecans that are broken. Now, I bought pecans that are already in pieces. So the hard work's done for me. I don't have to stand here and chop them up or break them up. So let's measure 1 cup. We're going to do 1 cup of pecans. And I'll be honest with you, I usually put a little more than 1 cup. So I'm going to do a heaping and put it right in your pie crust, unbaked pie crust. Now don't be afraid to use a store-bought pie crust. They are wonderful. It's a wonderful convenience. They're delicious. And there is nothing wrong with using it. And I'm going to save that because I'm going to do it again. Remember, we're doing 2 pies today. So now let's pour this on top. Looky there. If y'all could smell all this deliciousness. Now, how much of this can you see? You see, it's still, well, I can't pick it up too well. It's wanting to collapse on me. Look at that. The pecans are starting to float up to the top. You'll think they're on the bottom, but look, they're floating to the top already. And when you bake it, they'll all be on the top, and it'll just be a delicious top crust of pecans. And they're going to be so good. So I'm going to set that aside, and we're going to get mixing up our second one. So remember, I said I'm going to try to do this one with brown sugar and white granulated sugar. So let me get my brown sugar out so I won't forget it. Now, again, I need, where did I put 3 eggs. 3 eggs. Let's move that. I've got to put on some more butter to melt, y'all. 1, 2. I'll get these broken and I'll put some more butter in the microwave to be melting while we mix up our other, measure out our other ingredients. So here you are. Let's see, where's my butter dish? Right here. Let's get 3 tablespoons of butter. If you get a little more, it's not going to hurt anything at all. You've heard me say it before. Butter makes everything better. Even pecan pies. So, now let's set that aside. Now, I like to, when I'm putting a dish in the microwave like this, to keep it from splattering, easy cleanup, make it easy on yourself. I cover it with paper towel. So let me put this in the microwave. I'll be right back. So get this going. It won't take but a few seconds. And it will be done before we are. And you saw how quick that other one was to mix up. So, let's beat our eggs up. Now, instead of half a cup of sugar, granulated sugar, I'm going to put a 1/4 cup of granulated sugar and a 1/4 cup of brown sugar. Always pack your brown sugar when you measure it out. Brown sugar is white sugar with molasses in it. That's all it is. The darker the sugar, the dark brown sugar, excuse me, it just simply has more molasses in it than the light brown sugar. Light is what I had. If you have dark, use dark. It's your pie. So, and it will be delicious either way. Let's mix up the sugar. I use either granulated brown sugar and granulated, depending on what kind of mood I'm in and what I've got. So let's add in our salt. A teaspoon of salt. Again, remember I said I didn't use quite a full teaspoon. If you want a full teaspoon, that's fine. Salt seems to, and sweet seems to bring out the sweetness even more. So don't be afraid to use a little bit of salt in your sweets, and it makes it good. A teaspoon again of vanilla. Get you a good vanilla, a good pure vanilla. It really makes a big difference, and I know I've said this before, it makes a big difference in your baked goods. Now we need our tablespoon of cornstarch. Tablespoon of cornstarch, it's in there. Let's mix this up. It doesn't matter what holiday we're celebrating. We always have pecan pie and egg custard. So, however you celebrate the holidays, I hope you will try my pies. And if you do, please let me know. And I hope you use my recipes and share my videos. I certainly do appreciate it when you do. Okay, let's get our syrup in. Oh, I just didn't take time for it to pour out that time, y'all. I got ahead of it, so we don't need that any longer. Let's stir this up. So let's go back over ingredients, make sure we've got everything. And I do that a couple of times because so many times I have forgotten something. So it's good to review your recipe as you're going if you do it 2 or 3 times. So we've got 3 eggs. In this case, this pie, I've got a 1/4 cup of granulated sugar, a 1/4 cup of brown sugar, 1 cup of corn syrup, 1 teaspoon of salt, a teaspoon of vanilla. Let's get our butter. See? It's good to go back over it. You get distracted when you're in the kitchen, and it's easy to forget something. So that's just all a part of cooking. Now we got that butter in here. Let's get it stirred up again. Oh man, y'all. Now all we need is our pie crust. And I have my pie crust right here, ready to go. And we need a cup of pecans. Grab my pecans again. 1 cup. And again, you've heard me say, well, I do a little over. I love pecans. They are my favorite. See, I spread them out in that pie shell. It's an unbaked 9-inch deep dish pie crust. So let's get that poured in. Y'all, watch this. Watch this golden deliciousness as I pour it in there. Looky there. Looky there. Now, as this bakes, it's going to set up. And When it doesn't jiggle, you don't want any jiggle. Slight jiggle is fine because it'll set up more as it cools. But you don't want it, when you shake it, you don't want it like jello that's not done. So we're going to get a pie. Let me get a baking sheet to put them on so I can transfer them to the oven. Now I want you to look at this when we set aside. Remember, we set it aside before we mix this pie up. Look, see how those nuts have already come to the top? Can you see that? Can you see that? Good. And this one, see, this one's already rising up as well. Looky there. See, they've already come to the top as well. Now we're going to put these in a 350 degree preheated oven, and I'm going to bake it 45 to 50 minutes. So I'll be right back. I'm just going to turn around, put this in the oven, middle rack. I'm going to check it at 45. And if I think it needs to go the full 50 minutes, then I'll turn it back on. So let me get that going, and we'll be back in just a little bit to put our egg custard together. See you in a minute. Y'all, I just want to hop back on here real quick for just a second to tell you that these pies freeze beautifully. So it's still a couple of weeks, 2.5 weeks till Thanksgiving. I've got making my pies today, and I'm going to wrap them after they cool. I'll wrap them well and put them in my freezer. Years ago, when my mother was still living and cooking, she would set aside a day and she would bake pecan pies all day. She made dozens at a time and put them in her freezer. She had pecan pies for months. So they keep in your freezer really well. I've never frozen an egg custard pie, but they don't stay in my house long enough to think about freezing one, because my husband will sit down and he'll eat half of it tonight. That's what we're having for dessert. So, and then come Thanksgiving, I'll make a fresh one. But I just want to pop back in and tell you that go ahead, bake them. Take every chance, opportunity you've got, every minute. I work, and I'm sure most of you do as well. So in your free time, do your baking. Get as much made ahead as you can. So I'll be back. Give me just a few. I'll show you what they look like when they come out of the oven. Hey, welcome back, everybody. See, that didn't take long. Actually, I started my pies out at 45 minutes, and then I had to increase the temperature to 50 minutes, and or I had 5 more minutes to make a total of 50 because they weren't set like I had talked about. I don't know if you can, how well you can see these. I hope you can see it really good. I'll hold up one so you can hopefully get a good peep at it. Looky there. Now that is going to be one delicious pie. I'm going to let them cool really well, then I'll cover them up with foil and I'll put them in my freezer. And then when I'm ready for my Thanksgiving meal, which is what I'm making these for, I'll take them out that morning. They'll be thawed usually, or you can put it in the refrigerator the night before. They'll thaw fairly quickly, and you'll have your good dessert. So I hope you try these. So now, as promised, we're going to make an egg custard pie. So I've got to preheat my oven to 450. Let me get it going. We'll start it out at 450, and then we're going to reduce the heat to 350 and finish cooking them. So again, this is a recipe of my grandmother's, and everybody loves it. So whether you make it for a holiday or whatever day you make it for, I certainly hope you try it. So we need 3 eggs. Seems like we're using in threes today, right? So here we go, 3 eggs. 1. Again, these are room temperature eggs. 2, and 3. 3 eggs. So let's get those beaten up a little bit. Then I'm going to need salt. Let me go ahead and read out the recipe to you. It's 3 eggs, half a teaspoon of salt. The original recipe calls for 2 cups of scalding milk. I find that's a little too much for my pie crust, so I cut it down to like 1 2/3, 1 3/4. 2/3 cup of granulated sugar, a teaspoon of vanilla, a tablespoon of butter melted. After I get it put in the my pie shell, unbaked pie shell, then I grate a little fresh nutmeg over it. If you want, you can change it up. You can put some coconut in it. We like it just like this, the original. So let's get our salt. Get our salt, and I need a half a teaspoon of salt. There you are. I use table salt when I'm baking, not kosher. Tablespoon of salt. 2/3 cup of granulated sugar. So I don't have a 2/3 cup measure, so we'll use 2 1/3 cup measures. Level it off with your fingers. If it's not perfect, it's going to be quite all right. So let's get that out of our way so you can see. I wish you could smell my kitchen right now, those pies that I just took out of the oven. Oh, they smell so good. And they're going to taste so good. So I got my sugar in. I still need my vanilla. Again, I can't tell you how important it is to use good, pure vanilla. It just gives it a better flavor than imitation can. When you use imitation, you need to use a little bit more, and that's okay if that's what you have. And nothing wrong with it. I've used imitation vanilla a lot of years. Let me grab my butter. And then that was a tablespoon of melted butter. So it's always good to go back and check your recipe. And milk. Let me grab that from the microwave. Now, you don't want your milk, when you heat your milk up, you don't want it boiling, you just want it scalded. You'll start seeing little bubbles form around the perimeter of the milk, then you know it's hot enough. Just pour it in slow. You don't want to cook your eggs. If you do it like this, it tempers the eggs so it doesn't cook. Then you don't want scrambled eggs in your egg custard pie. That wouldn't be good. So, a little more. Now I think we're going to be good to set it all in there. Get that beat up. Let's go over the recipe again. We have 3 eggs, a half a teaspoon of salt, 1 3/4 cup of scalding milk, 2/3 cup of granulated sugar, a teaspoon of vanilla, 1 tablespoon of melted butter, and then when I get it in my pie crust, we're going to put some fresh grated nutmeg. Excuse me, I had to grab my pie crust here. So I put it on the baking dish in case it spills over, and it probably won't, but this also helps me when I put it in. You know, I'm using store-bought pie crust, so the pie tins kind of want to give sometimes, and I don't want to be putting it in my oven and it spill. So I put it on a baking sheet, makes it a little more steady. So let's pour it in. Can you see? I wish y'all could smell it in here right now. And this is not even baked and it smells so good. Oh, that was perfect amount of milk. Perfect amount. So set this up here so you can see. Now I'm going to grate my nutmeg over the top. I love fresh grated nutmeg. If you've got ground nutmeg, use ground nutmeg. That's perfectly fine. Don't think I'm going to be able to hold this pot up so you can see it, because it's a little more liquidy than the other pie just a bit. So let's get this in the oven. Can you get a little peep at it? A little bit. So I'm going to get this in the oven, and I'm going to bake it on 450 for 15 minutes. After those 15 minutes, I'm going to leave it in the oven, but I'm going to reduce the heat to 350 and bake it 25 to 30 minutes. I'll check it after 25 minutes on the second bake, and then if I think it needs more, I can add it. So let me get this in here. See, this baking sheet sure helps when you're transferring it to your oven. So we'll set our timer for 15 minutes. And then I'll come back and reduce the heat. So I will, I'll talk to you guys in a few minutes. Yeah, I just wanted to pop back in again for just a second and tell you, I didn't tell you that when I'm making my pies or my custard pies and pecan pies, even when I'm baking, most of your recipes will call for large eggs. I use extra large eggs. I just like them better. I think they make your recipes better. You know, whether it's true or not, that's just what I like. So I just wanted you to know that if you try my recipes, I'm using extra large eggs. I wouldn't go so far as like a jumbo egg. I think that would be a little too much. But just to let you know what I'm using. See you in a little bit. Hey, we're back. See, that didn't take too long. My pie's ready to take out of the oven. Now I'm going to put it over in a pretty little pie plate. So that's how we're going to serve it. So I'm going to set that there. Let's get it out of the oven. Give a hot pants. Oh y'all, this looks and smells so good. See if we can get a good picture of it. So that smells so good. If you could just smell my kitchen right now. So I'm going to slip this over into my pie plate. It's hot. Now look. See, nobody will ever know you didn't make pie crust yourself. So we've got that, and here are our pecan pies that we're going to freeze. I'm still letting them cool so you can get a really good picture of that. They should be cool enough to handle. They are. And don't worry if they sink a little bit in the middle. That's normal. They'll do that. But see how crusty that pecan is? So I'm going to let these finish cooling. Wrap them up. Put them in the freezer. Our egg custard pie we're going to have tonight. So I hope however you celebrate the holidays, I hope you'll enjoy my pies. Hope you'll make them, try them. If you do, please let me know how they come out and how you like them. I certainly appreciate it. Please share and like my videos. Thank you. Talk soon.